Okay, this will be a challenging one. We'll see if we can make this one look interesting. It's that time of the year. We all know what time. We'll find out soon when I get the object and see what we're going to do. Going to leave it on 100. Alright, let's see what this is for this time of year. It is Have a Very Merry Christmas. Holographic. So it's a card, Christmas card, and a Happy New Year. Well, I turned 48 on New Year's Day. Ha! I got this for myself. Using in this demo, but basically, yeah, Christmas time indeed. I'm missing a loved one, so Christmas isn't exactly the most Christmassy aesthetic to me. It feels lonely and desolate. Trying to get this stuff on television so I can find Luigi, the man of my dreams, the man that I lost a long time ago due to stupid errors that I made. Errors in judgment and all the rest of it. Anyway, that looks interesting. We can make it better than that. But basically, I really miss Luigi. It really hurts to not have him at my side. I really love him and I honour him, and I just get so lonely without him. And I'm trying to make a Christmas wish come true, and that is to find Luigi, but I don't think it's going to happen at Christmas time. I've got a gut feeling we're in this for the long haul. It's not going to happen straight away. There's going to be too much stuff on television regarding the pageantry of Christmas celebrations. There's just going to be too much stuff to do with celebrations, so I'm not going to get a fucking look in. It's going to be like, well, we got COVID-19, which is the coronavirus. We've got bushfires, which are going to start up. I'm pretty sure we're going to have another bumper bushfire season. So there's all sorts of things that I have to consider, and I am sounds a little bit pessimistic that I'm talking about all these things that are going to block my campaign, but I have to be realistic and I mustn't get my hopes up, which I have done, and when I get my hopes up I get really upset when they get dashed. So I can't allow myself to get dashed too hard by putting too much hope into getting my stuff on air. It's not an easy thing to do. It's really difficult. I'm trying my best to make my stuff show up. It's really difficult trying to break my way into the free-to-air TV primetime news slot, but I have to. I've got to find this person. Otherwise I'll die of a broken heart. And we don't want that. I'm ready to die, folks, but I'm not ready to die. I'm ready in that I'm not afraid of death. But at the same time, I'm not ready to die because I've got things that need to be done in this world to help others as well as help myself. So I have to fucking consider that death isn't ready isn't something that I'm ready to have to come to. I've got a lot of things I want to do in this world. One of the things I want to do most is to rethink photocopier design and use artificial intelligence to drive the features, instead of having to learn about the machine through a huge manual or training. Yeah, you might get a trainer to show you on the first day, but the rest of it should be quite intuitive. You know, we've got to think of a new way of designing electronics, and photocopiers really need a new design. Another thing to note is the environmental impact of photocopier design. We've got to use less plastic. We've got to use more metals and natural type materials if we can, and we've got to use recycled materials. We've got to use recycled materials as much as we can, where we can, to help preserve preserve the planet, the supply of raw materials. We don't want to mine. We want to mine rubbish tips like the ones in India, where e-waste, electronic waste, gets dumped. And e-waste is toxic, highly toxic, but it contains a lot of minerals and metals and all sorts of shit that can be reused. It's there, it needs to be tapped into. So we've got to consider importing these materials so that we can actually clean up the places, the countries which supply where the e-waste usually ends up. And we got to think of the humanitarian impact of this equipment that we manufacture. We got to make sure people get paid what they're actually a little bit more than what they're actually worth. And the actual equipment is going to be manufactured on Australian soil. We're not going over and sending it off to China or off to Vietnam, which much of this equipment has been. We're going to make it on our own turf, and we're going to make sure that people get paid a proper wage, more than a proper wage. As I said, a little bit more than what they're actually worth, not slave actually worth, proper wage, like in the olden days of Australian manufacturing, but more than that. But basically, yeah, we want to manufacture this on Australian turf instead of doing it on overseas, and we cut out slave labour, and people actually hopefully will enjoy the experience of working at this new company. We want to make it a pleasure. You know, the workers have to, factory workers really have to work really hard, and they deserve to be treated with respect, because without factory workers, what do we have? We can't treat them like second-class citizens. But we also have to make sure that we keep our call centres on our shores. You know, nothing's going to be outsourced overseas, and it's going to be right in this company. So we have to consider things. Now, this is not working too well. But basically, and the money that I earn as a CEO is going to be utilised to help with science and humanity. So there's going to be a lot of philanthropy. And in addition to me being a CEO, I also want to be a scientist. So I'm really interested in helping find solutions to things like climate change, or how to decontaminate nuclear waste, like at Fukushima or Chernobyl, and how to clean the oceans out, clean out the plastics in the oceans. There's a lot of things I want to do as a scientist. I know currently I don't have the wherewithal to do any of this stuff. I had brain damage at birth, had a cord around my neck, and I came out feet first, in other words, breech. And this meant that I lost a lot of my short-term memory and my hippocampus. Of course, the hippocampus is the part of the brain that converts short-term memories to long-term memories. So I can't work in that capacity yet. But I look forward to technology like quantum computers that can run at normal temperatures instead of the sub-zero that they run at. It'd be good to have that. And I have another disability which I classify as something that could be a double-edged sword. I do believe I also have Asperger's syndrome, which is, the other term is high-functioning autism. And basically has been a double-edged sword, but I consider it an asset now, because that's why I'm so fixated on trying to redesign the photocopier, folks. That's what I want. If it wasn't for that, I'd just be a boring person who just didn't have any drive or interest. So I have to fucking utilise this social disability. It's only a mild case. I haven't actually been diagnosed with brain damage or Asperger's, but they're strongly suspected. And I consider the Asperger's the powerhouse that's going to help get me through and get stuff done. So I'm looking forward to a bright future, folks. Let's see how this looks. This has been a really difficult piece to work with, I must say. It looks interesting. It looks a bit minimalist, you could say. Wondering, I know what we're meant to do. We're meant to get rid of that. But basically, we've got to fucking think of our futures, folks. We've got to think of the future of mankind. We've got to think of the future of nature, because without nature there can't be a mankind. We don't want to send ourselves extinct because we love money that much. So the amount of money I estimate that I'm probably going to give away is basically 95%. So I still have a lot to live on, but I'm not interested in profiteering. I'm not interested in being greedy. I'm interested in making a difference. Yes, I get to enjoy having the money, having a fair amount of money under my belt, a lot more money than I otherwise would normally. But I am very adamant. I'm adamant that we do need to change the way the world operates. We've got to become less of a capitalist state. We've got to be more, well, we're not going to be like communism, but I think a certain type of socialism is required to run this world a whole lot better than what we have now, where we have like a have and have not system, and it seems that the haves have heaps more than the have nots, and it's just not fair, and it's ruining our planet. So we can't live like this. We can't live a life of have and have not. Now that looks interesting. But we got to fucking change the way things run. We've got to make a difference to the world. And that's another thing. These equipments that we build have got to last 60 years, not 5 years. And then we make these equipments suitable for recycling, so that when it reaches its 60 or so years, it'll be ready to pull apart and the material's ready to go and get reused, should I say recycled, and then reused in future builds. So we have to think about that sort of thing. We can't have this design for dump aesthetic that we have become so used to. We've got to think that if things are made to last longer, it'll be better for our planet. And it'll mean that when we manufacture our equipment, we'll be using less CO2. We'll be creating less CO2, should I say. We'll have less CO2 being belched into the atmosphere. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Instead of having to smelt raw materials that have just been mined, we have to just use the materials as they are, that come out of the old e-waste. Now this looks interesting. I'm wondering if we're going to use this, and we're just going to enlarge it. But basically, I'm not sure. This is really getting difficult. But the thing I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to get my stuff, this demo work on television. I'm trying to locate my lost loved one, and he's the one that I need to make these dreams come true. We need to be a partnership, and I can't be, because of my disabilities alone, I can't do anything, as I've mentioned. The intellectual disability that I mentioned, which is the coming out feet first out of my mum, well, basically, or breech, basically that means I can't work as a CEO or a scientist. You know, learning is difficult, if not impossible, when you're considering the damage, but that's why I'm hoping to locate Luigi, and Luigi is interested in that sort of stuff as well. And it gets lonely. You know, you need a partner in life. You need someone to call your own, to call yourself a friend and a loved one. Otherwise, it does get lonely. Even when you can do all the things that you want to do, it gets downright lonely. It gets very lonely. It really does. It's really a difficult... I'm going to put this one aside. I'm going to use this one. I don't know how this is going to work. But basically, we have to think for the planet, think of mankind and all the rest of it. I don't know how this is going to look. That looks interesting. It looks dark. Just move that out of the way. Maybe this could be a goer. We just enlarge it that way and that way. Or maybe we'll do another one. I'm just getting a bit sick and tired of not being able to get this to look any good. Kind of just spin it the opposite direction. Yeah, and it's really difficult missing a loved one the way that I do. I really long to be with him instead of being alone. I really do, folks. It gets lonely away from him. It really does. It's a lonely existence without Luigi. This is really getting difficult. Getting the shakes. Now that looks shit house. I'm actually thinking this one is the better one. We're going to use that. Try and use that. So we're just going to get rid of that. I don't like that bit coming into play. But basically it's really a lonely kind of existence, being away from your loved one. And it really hurts to be alone when you have so much that you want to do in life and you want to share it with someone. You don't want to just do it on your own, even if you could. And it's really... And I'm trying to get this stuff on television, however hard it might be. It seems impossible. There's a lot of news going around. I probably mentioned earlier in this demo. Just what I was talking about was the bushfires and all that. Bushfires as well as the coronavirus. So there's a lot of big ticket and potential big ticket news items that the TV channels can play with. Now we're getting more than 20 minutes into this demo, but basically it gets lonely without Luigi, and this looks really quite nice. This marbled effect looks really quite nice. I don't know where the centre of this job is going to be. We're going to cut off the bottom and see what we can do with it, but basically I really miss my loved one, and I'm trying very hard to make my demos impressive enough to be aired, to be worthy of being on television. Primetime news is what I'm thinking. Primetime, that's when everyone pretty well is watching the news like a hawk, and giving the TV channels their ratings. And I do think my stuff has the potential to pull the necessary ratings that the TV channels always desire from the news. So I'm really eager. Hopefully my work will dominate the news. But it's not as easy as it looks, as I said so many times. This is a really long demo, folks. This one's gone nearly 22 minutes in duration. I can see something that looks like something good, so that's going to look like the centre of our job. Wondering if we're going to lift it up or we're going to leave it like that. There's a little bit of a hole there. I'm wondering what we're going to do. We're going to just print it off like that. We're not going to make it a perfect piece. But really, I'm trying to get my stuff recognition. I'm trying to get my dad and my brother also to apologise for being bullies about hating my art, because they don't like what I do because it's not considered normal or popular. And my dad and my brother, incidentally, are very shallow types of people who base a lot of their success on what other people think instead of what you know is right on the inside. And I have to prove them wrong. But it's mainly about finding Luigi. That's the centerpiece. That's the biggest part of... I don't want that. That's the biggest part of this campaign, is finding Luigi. Because I really miss him. And these dreams that I have for the future can't happen until I find him. So people have to learn that they can't just do it on their own. And this is a lesson for everyone, pretty much, that you can't just do it alone. You can't just try to be the brave one and do it on your own. You do need collaboration. That's what being human is all about, is having the ability to collaborate and to create good things in a group situation. So, I'm not going to be building this photocopier on my own. Indeed, we'll hire R&D staff. But I will be the one that has the final say in how the photocopier is going to be, being the CEO. So yeah, anyway, that looks really quite nice. I think now we can finally call this demo quits.